Welcome back to Klinga Games. Today we are back with our Series 10 series. As you can see from the Pokemon behind me, we are going with Dialga this week. This Dialga is shiny that I've had since Gen 5, I think. I got it through a trade online. So it's pretty cool to put it into a team for the first time and build a team around it. The team around it that I built is pretty interesting, in my opinion. Apparently Dialga generally runs Trick Room, which my team does not use at all, and I went ahead and brought back a familiar face from the QBA Draft League. So the mascot from the Cincinnati Crobats will make an appearance, and it is actually the Crobat that I was hoping to use in the finals, but I never made it that far, so it'll make its first real appearance in battle, and I'm really excited for it. So without further ado, we will go ahead and hop into the battles. I will have a rental code and a Pokepaste in the description, and we'll go over the team at the end. Alright, getting into game number 1, my opponent has an Yveltal team with Regieleki, Incineroar, Rillaboom, Landorus, and Stakataka. As you can see, just real quick, my team is Dialga, Landorus, Crobat, Ditto, Skuntank, and Incineroar. This is the first team I've made in, I think, Sword and Shield in total with Incineroar on it, just because I try not to use it, but I really needed it on this team. So what we do with this team, with this battle rather, is we go ahead and lead Crobat, Landorus, and we have Ditto, and Dialga in the back. I'm going to make that mistake a lot. I'm going to start saying Ditto is Dietto because of Dialga. But anyway, so that's the lead we're bringing. We have to lead Landorus because of the Regieleki. If we lead anything else, then Regieleki has a pretty easy time just electro-webbing us to death. So, we lead Crobat to get speed control if it's not Regieleki, and we lead Landorus to take care of Regieleki if it is their lead. But aside from that, Yveltal doesn't really scare us a whole lot as a team. The team is pretty well set to tank hits, so they do end up leading Landorus and Regieleki. But what's really important here is that they led the Landorus in the same slot as Crobat, opposite our Landorus. So what we can do here is we go ahead and switch into our Ditto, and then we go ahead and, expecting a switch with Regieleki, or not expecting, but reading into a possible switch with Regieleki, we go ahead and Rock Slide. So we switch Crobat out, and we get Ditto in, which immediately copies the Landorus. So we now have triple Landorus on the field, really. Double Landorus on our side. So they tried to Volt Switch out, and so we get a free Rock Slide here. And we do get pretty big damage on both their Pokemon. Now, this is a weird situation where, unfortunately, we win the speed tie because their Landorus is able to set up a substitute. If they would have substituted before us, then we could have broken it here. So, a little unfortunate there, but, you know, worse things have happened. So what we do here is we go ahead and Sludge Bomb into the Regieleki, reading into a switch, and we go ahead and just Rock Slide with Landorus, just to get that spread damage, and if Yveltal switches in, then it's super effective damage into their restricted Pokemon, which is always big. And of course it allows us to hit both slots, which gives us the chance to break their Landorus's substitute. Also important to know is we got to see their Landorus moveset, which is just Protect, Earth Power, Sludge Bomb, and Substitute, so we know that they don't have anything on their Landorus that threatens either of ours. So we do get the Sludge Bomb off into Yveltal, which is a critical hit. Unfortunately, Ditto is carrying a Choice Scarf. It's not able to run the Life Orb with our Landorus holding the Life Orb, so it doesn't get the Sheer Force Life Orb boost, but it does still get Sheer Force, which is plenty of a boost in my opinion. So we get Yveltal down into the red. So what we do here is we go ahead and just Sludge Bomb into the Yveltal slot again and Rock Slide again, which we do knock out their Yveltal. their Landorus goes ahead and Sludge Bombs into ours, and we get maybe a third, but probably between a third and a fourth there, and we go ahead and hit Rock Slide, which is single target, which will definitely break their substitute. So now we are sitting with 2 Landoruses, and the best counter to Landorus is off the field on their team. So they go ahead and switch an Incineroar, get the Intimidate down, which at this point isn't a big deal. We are worried about PP on their Landorus, and we know that they really can't touch our Crobat with their Landorus, so we go ahead and switch Crobat back in here, and we Earth Power into the Incineroar slot. Unfortunately, they go ahead and cancel, so that is game number 1 in the books. So good game, Bostic, and we will hop into game 2. Alright, so getting into game number 2 against Lucky, who has a Necrozma Duskmane team, which is really cool. So they have Necrozma Duskmane, Politoed, Ludicolo, Dracovish, Tornadus, and Moltres Galarian. So this is a really cool team. I really like to see rain teams, and it's a very unique rain team, especially for Series 10, where they're not running Kyogre and they're running Politoed and Ludicolo. So that I think is a really cool, and then they've got Dracovish, which I really love Dracovish. I really love the Gen 8 fossils. I know it's kind of a, I don't know if it's an unpopular opinion, but people are very split on that. I really love them. I love their goofy appearance, and I love their half and half nature. I don't really care if we see the quote-unquote originals, but I really love the Gen 8 fossil, so it's really cool to see it here in Series 10. So what we go ahead and do is we lead our Crobat Dialga with Ditto and Landorus in the back. And they really take their sweet time picking their Pokemon. I feel like that's kind of a theme for me, is I'm really quick about picking my Pokemon in general. There are sometimes I go down to the wire, but in general I pick them really quick, and then I wait a really long time for my opponent to pick them. So we have Lucky, number 13 here. And what they go ahead and do is they lead Necrozma Ludicolo, which is an interesting lead. And I lead my 2 shinies, my Crobat, and my Dialga. This is the Crobat that I usually don't shiny hunt, but I specifically shiny hunted in Let's Go to get a shiny Crobat, and then I lost in the QBA semifinals, so I wasn't able to use it. But I'm happy it makes an appearance here. I really love Crobat, and I'll probably try and find ways to make other teams using it. So this should not be the last time we see my nice shiny Crobat here. So what I do here is I go ahead and Hypnosis into the Necrozma slot, and I go ahead and switch Dialga into Ditto, partially because I don't want to lose Dialga this early. It's not the best in physical defense, and Necrozma is a very powerful physical attacker, but also I wanted to scout out Necrozma's moveset. And then Ludicolo goes for an Ice Beam here, which does a pretty good amount of damage. Fortunately does not get the freeze, but we do find out that Ludicolo is Life Orb, and then their Necrozma actually attacks into the Crobat. So they double up into Crobat, and Crobat goes down, which is a big blow to us. Crobat's our best support Pokemon. But we go ahead and bring Dialga back onto the field here. So we do get to keep one of our shinies on the field. So what we do here is we go ahead, I thought about I thought about power gemming into the Ludicolo. I'm slightly worried about Necrozma being weakness policy, but at this point we lost Crobat, so we really have to play aggressively. So we go ahead and Earth Power into Necrozma, and we Photon Geyser into Ludicolo. What's important to note is we do find out that Necrozma 1 has Swords Dance, and 2 does not have a move that threatens Dialga. it only has Psychic and Steel type moves, which Dialga should be able to tank those pretty well. So Dialga is not really threatened right now. So because of our Choice Scarf, our Ditto / Necrozma is the fastest thing on the field, and we find out they have a lot of attack investment because they're able to knock out Ludicolo in one hit, and then we go ahead and get an Earth Power off into the Necrozma, which does about a third. It looks like it's a pretty clean 3-hit KO here. And then they unfortunately do get a Swords Dance off here. I would love to be able to Swords Dance with our own Necrozma, but we do run the Choice Scarf item on this one. So I've thought about changing it. I've thought about maybe giving it a Citrus Berry or a, I don't know, like a Quick Claw. But I do like the Choice Scarf in general, just it can be rough against Trick Room Pokemon. So what we do here is we go ahead and Earth Power into Necrozma again, and we Photon Geyser into the Politoed here. So we do get Photon Geyser off here, which is a pretty cool move. I don't know, I'm not a huge fan of the animation. I will say I was not a fan of the Necrozma forms in Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, as we hit Earth Power here, and unfortunately they go with Hypnosis of Politoed, and they do hit their Hypnosis. Unfortunately we missed ours, and then Necrozma gets off Trick Room here. But anyway, I was not a huge fan of the Necrozma forms in Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. I really like Necrozma's base design. But Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, in Sword and Shield they look really cool. So I might make a Necrozma, Duskmane, or Dawnwings team. I do really like their designs in this game, and I think, I don't know what it is about it, but it just looks a lot cleaner than it did before. So what we do here is we go ahead and we Earth Power into Necrozma, and we Photon Geyser into Politoed, which is exactly what we did last turn, so it's not very surprising. So they go ahead and Hydro Pump into the Ditto slot, which unfortunately misses. And then they get off a Photon Geyser into Dialga, which even at +2 is going to be a 2-hit KO or a 3-hit KO into Dialga. So like I was saying before, Dialga is not very threatened by this Necrozma's moveset. And then we are able to knock out Politoed with the Photon Geyser here. And then they bring in their last Pokemon, which is Dracovish, which is really cool. So what we do here is we go ahead and Draco Meteor into the Dracovish slot, hoping for a 1-turn sleep, and we Photon Geyser into Necrozma. So they go ahead and get another Photon Geyser off here into Dialga, which again we take. So again, 3-turn. Unfortunately, we stay asleep, and they are able to get a Vicious Rend off into Dialga, which does knock it out. So that puts us in a pretty tricky situation here. And then we Photon Geyser into Necrozma, but because we are at base, not +2 like they are, we do not get to take it out. We do about, I would say, a little bit more than half of what was left. So a critical hit could have taken it out. But it probably would have been better there to target into Dracovish with both Pokemon. So what we do here, we have to bring in the Landorus to fill in for the Dialga, which just went down. And there are still 2 turns left of Trick Room, which is not great. So what I do here is I was going to Protect, but the Protect feels very obvious. It feels like too obvious of a play. And it feels like they're going to double into the Ditto. So I go ahead at the last second here, I go ahead and switch into Earth Power into the Necrozma and Photon Geyser into Dracovish. So they go ahead and Photon Geyser into the Ditto slot, which does not take it out. It doesn't really even do that much damage. And then they Vicious Rend into the Ditto slot. So they do double up into Ditto as I predicted. And we go ahead and get an Earth Power off into the Necrozma. So now it's a 1v1 with Landorus and Dracovish. Now here I was kind of debating about what item it might have. In my head I was thinking probably the most obvious is Choice Band. I know a lot of Dracovishes run choice items, and it's outspeeding and Trick Room, so I know it's not Choice Scarf. So my thought process here was Band. So my thought is it's locked into Fish's Rend, and I go ahead and protect here, get out of the Trick Room, and then I can Earth Power the last turn and win. So we go ahead and get the Protect off here, and then unfortunately their Dracovish is definitely not choiced, and they go ahead and set up a substitute here, which that just about wins them the game. Trick Room is over and the rain stops, so I don't know what the roll is here. I guess there's maybe a minuscule chance Landorus lives, but I would say it's pretty much guaranteed one-hit KO with Fish's Friend, so that substitute was just a genius play by them. I think this game is really just a game of 2 Hypnosis where we missed ours, they hit theirs, which really set them in a really good position, and then me misjudging their item. So really good game to you, Lucky. You played really, really well, and we'll get into game number 3. So real quick before we get into game number 3, we do get a chance to look at their team. They have some really intricate EV spreads, and they have some interesting items too. Their Politoed is a zoom lens, so it actually is more accurate when it goes after, which makes their Hypnosis not as lucky to hit. Their Dracovish was Mystic Water, so obviously not a choice item, and their Necrozma was Safety Goggles, which I thought was really cool. So yeah, just a quick look at their team. I thought it was really, really interesting and really cool team, Lucky. And now we'll actually get into game number 3. Okay, so getting into game number 3 against MJ. So MJ is actually running Sage and Park's team from the Invitational at the beginning of Series 10. I'm not sure what the official name was, but it was an Invitational with former world champs. So I believe this is actually the team Sage and Park use, which is a really cool team. Which is Xerneas, Indeedee, Dragonite, which is really cool, Stakataka, Torkoal, and Krookodile, which is very cool. So what I do here is I go ahead and lead Crobat, Landorus, and then Ditto and Dialga in the back. So this is a really cool team. Sage and Park's known for being really, really creative. I believe he's the one who won with the Pachirisu. Yeah, I think he's the one who won with Pachirisu. I'm not totally sure. I'm not super familiar with World Champion history. But it's a really cool team with Dragonite and Krookodile, which are 2 of my favorite Pokemon that don't see a whole lot of usage. And then you got the obvious like Stakataka and Indeedee and Xerneas. So really interesting team, and it's obviously not being piloted by the world champ right now, but it's a pretty cool barometer to see how good my team is doing. So they go ahead and lead the Xerneas and the Indeedee, and it looks like those are Korean names, so I do believe this is the actual rental from Sage and Park, which is cool. And then I lead my Crobat and Landorus here. So what I do here is I go ahead and Tailwind, and I go ahead and Earth Power into the Indeedee turn 1. I targeted the Indeedee for 2 reasons. I figured their best move is either to follow me and get the Power Herb Geomancy off, or they're going to protect or switch out and they're going to attack with Indeedee. So they do end up switching out, so I could have targeted into the Xerneas slot. I wouldn't have lost too much there, but I do go ahead and hit Indeedee with huge damage there, taking it down to I would say maybe a quarter left, and then they do get off a big expanding force here, which they must be an offensive set to do that kind of damage. Usually Crobat can live in the expanding force pretty well. So what I do here is I go ahead and dual Wing Beat into the Indeedee, and I go ahead and Earth Power into Stakataka. The only switch-in they would have for Earth Power is Dragonite. And because they didn't do it turn 1 into the Xerneas slot, I'm pretty confident they don't have it. So what they do here is they go ahead and do a double switch and switch their Stakataka out into the Xerneas, which is in a lure ball, which I think is really cool. And they protect their Indeedee. So I'm not sure what exactly they were going for here, but we do go ahead and basically just get a free Earth Power off into Xerneas, which Xerneas is a pretty bulky Pokemon in general. It doesn't have the Geomancy boost up yet, but it's still pretty bulky, but that's still about 2/3 damage into the Xerneas, which is always really nice. And then what we do here is we just do the same thing, dual Wing Beat into Indeedee, and we Earth Power into the now Xerneas slot. There's not a whole lot they can do to prevent this. The fact that they didn't switch in Dragonite tells me again that they did not bring it, which it would have been a big bring for them with Landorus. Without bringing Dragonite, Landorus kind of eats this team alive. So what they do is they go ahead and protect with the Xerneas, and they follow me with Indeedee. I'm not sure why they would do that exactly. If you're gonna follow me, you'd think you go ahead and Geomancy. But I guess it doesn't really matter. If they tried to attack, we would have gone off before them and knocked them out. And if they tried to Geomancy, then we would have knocked them out. So it's probably a good thing they protected there. That was probably their best move. But just kind of interesting there about their choice of moves there. So they go ahead and bring in Crocodile, which does confirm that they do not have Dragonite, so they have no switch in for Earth Power. So I'm pretty much free to just Earth Power whatever I want. So what I do here is I go ahead and run a Hypnosis into the Crocodile slot, and I Earth Power into the Xerneas. So they get double protected with the Xerneas, which they do get. And then we get our Hypnosis off here into Crocodile, which thankfully we hit this one. So we were 1-4-2 on the Hypnosis. So we Crocodile goes to sleep, and then we attack and protect with Earth Power, which I'm not too worried about. Now this turn, the Pokemon I have in the back are not scared of Xerneas or Stakataka. So the most important thing right now is knocking out the Crocodile. So what I do here is I go ahead and Tailwind with Crobat, and I go ahead and Earth Power into the Crocodile slot just to get that out of the way. So we get the big Earth Power, which luckily they are not bulky enough to take that. And they go ahead and Dazzling Gleam here to knock out my Crobat and Landorus, but I'm perfectly fine with that. We went ahead and we knocked out 2 of their most important pieces, and we got our Tailwind up again. So that's just a win right there for us. And with Dialga in the back, there's not really anything they can do to threaten us. But just to play safe, what we do here is we switch Dialga in across from Xerneas, and we switch Ditto in across from the now empty space. Because the only thing they can bring in is Stakataka, which is a perfect Xerneas counter. Not perfect, but you know what I mean. It's a great Xerneas counter. So this gives us Dialga and Stakataka versus Xerneas and Stakataka. So we're in a really, really good position here. So what we do is we go ahead and Earth Power into the Stakataka slot with Dialga, and we go ahead and Gyro Ball into the Xerneas slot. So Dialga does get the Earth Power off. Dialga has massive special attack. This Dialga is mostly bulk, but it does have 52 EVs in special attack, which does give it the range to knock out Stakataka. And then they go ahead and Dazzling Gleam here, which I'm sure they're very disappointed about damage. And then Stakataka, or Ditto Stakataka, gets the Gyro Ball off, and we get the win here. So it's not Sage and Park, but it's nice to beat World Champions team. So good game, MJ. And we'll get into the 4th and final game. Alright, Getting into battle number 4 against Vigalta, I assume is how you pronounce that, who has an Eternatus, a Zapdos, a Suicune, a Mamoswine, an Incineroar, and a Rillaboom. So, other than the Incineroar and Rillaboom, this is a really, really cool team. I really love to see Eternatus. I'll probably make a team for it soon. I'm trying not to do too many of one generation. I've already done Zamazenta and Calyrex from Gen 8. But I do like Eternatus a lot too. So I'll probably do one soon, but this is a very cool team. Especially the Mamoswine. You never really see Mamoswine. So what I do here is I lead Dialga Crobat against Incineroar and Ditto. So Dialga Crobat is actually a really solid lead against most teams. It's also my go-to for Kyogre teams. The general idea is that Dialga with an Assault Vest is insanely bulky on the special side. So if you're facing a team where a lot of the main threats are special attackers, then Dialga can pretty much just sit there and soak up damage and just retaliate with big damage of its own with its 150 base special attack. So what we have here is they lead the Eternatus and the Suicune, and the Suicune is in a Lure Ball, which I think is really cool. So I lead my shiny duo, Dialga Crobat. So what I do here is I go ahead and Earth Power into the Eternatus and I Tailwind with Crobat. Obviously I'm expecting a Tailwind in return from Suicune. And we get, I don't know if it's lucky, I think it's probably not lucky to get a Protect there from Eternatus. Both Crobat and Eternatus are 130 base speed, so it would have been a speed tie, but if they didn't Protect and we got the Tailwind up first, then that Earth Power would have done big damage to Eternatus right out of the gate. But now that we both have Tailwind up, Eternatus does outspeed the Dialga. So what we do here is we go ahead and Draco Meteor into Eternatus and we Hypnosis into the Suicune. So we do luckily hit the Hypnosis, put Suicune to sleep. And they outspeed Dialga as expected. It's 130 base speed versus 90 base speed. I think even if we were max speed and they were min speed, I think they might still outspeed us. And we have no speed investment, so I had no hopes there of outspeeding Eternatus with both on Trick Room. Or, not on Trick Room, both on Tailwind. So they Dynamax Cannon into the Crobat, which does pretty big damage, but we take it. And then we Draco into the Eternatus and get the KO. So you've probably seen on my Crobat that Crobat has Haze, which makes it a really cool duo with Dialga that lets it haze off the drops from Draco Meteor, which is a really cool little tech, I think. So that's what I go for here is I Flash Cannon into the Mamoswine and I haze with Crobat. Unfortunately, they have Ice Shard, so they knock out my Crobat, which is very unfortunate. So we are not able to reset that special attack drop. But we do get a Flash Cannon critical hit here against the Mamoswine, which takes it down to the Focus Sash, which is really nice. Which is good, but I don't know how much it really matters, because even if we didn't get the critical hit, then we could have taken it out in 2 turns with 2 Flash Cannons. So it is lucky to get that crit, but we're only at -2, so 2 Flash Cannons would have done the same damage that a single critical hit did. And because of the Focus Sash, it's a 2-hit KO either way. So I don't think it's a huge deal. But what we do here is we go ahead and we bring in Incineroar for the Crobat that got knocked out, and then we switch out Dialga into Ditto to copy their Mamoswine, and we fake out into the Mamoswine slot. So we get a nice Tusk Boy here, and unfortunately their Mamoswine also has Protect. So we know it has Ice Shard and Protect, and we're about to find out the other two moves because we just copied it. And then unfortunately, Suicune wakes up and gets a Snarl off. But luckily it's just a Snarl. Both Pokemon I have on the field now are physical attackers. So dropping that special attack really doesn't mean a whole lot. And the tail ones go out, which isn't a big deal. Because both tail ones go out at the same time. So what we do here is we go ahead and Icicle Crash into Mamoswine, and we Parting Shot into the Suicune. They actually switch out their Mamoswine here, probably expecting me to be Choice Scarf since most Dittos are, and thinking that they wouldn't outspeed me. So they go ahead and bring in the Rillaboom here, which is very interesting. So we get a nice Icicle Crash off here into the Rillaboom, which takes it extremely low. I don't know if that's a roll to knock it out. I'm not sure what their Mamoswine spread is. But we do survive a Scald here from Suicune at barely 2 HP. So if we got a burn there, we would have lost. Or we would have lost the Ditto, I'll say that. And then we get a Parting Shot off into Suicune, get its special attack down, and then we bring Dialga back onto the field. And then what we do here is we go ahead, we're locked into Icicle Crash, so we go ahead and Icicle Crash again into the Rillaboom slot, and we go ahead and we Earth Power into the Suicune, which we know isn't going to do a whole lot of damage, but the idea here is to try to get a special defense drop onto the Suicune. We don't have a whole lot of damage into Suicune in the late game, so we want to try to get a special defense drop if we can, just to try and make our life at the end of the game easier. Luckily they do go ahead and just fake out into the Dialga, so we are able to knock them out with Icicle Crash. And then we get really lucky again here, and Ditto dodges the Snarl, which would have been a KO. So Ditto sticks around and gets a little bit more health back from the grassy terrain, and Dialga gets some health back from the grassy terrain. And then they go ahead and bring out their Mamoswine again, and what we do here is we go ahead and Icicle Crash, and we Flash Cannon into the Mamoswine slot. So my thought process here was that they were probably going to Icicle Crash into the Mamoswine, and so we wanted to double target it to knock it out after our Ditto goes down. Unfortunately, I didn't read into the Protect. I didn't think they would protect this turn, so we went ahead and double targeted into Mamoswine and got nothing in return. So that is a very unfortunate turn for us. And then they get a Snarl off, which greatly reduces Dialga's damage output. So at this point, we don't really have any other choice other than just do the same play again. So we go ahead and we Icicle Crash into the Mamoswine, and we Flash Cannon into it as well. So this turn, they actually do the play that I was expecting before, and they Icicle Crash into, or they Ice Shard into the Mamoswine, knocking it out, or our Ditto and knocking out. Ditto is very hard to keep track of. So they knock out our Ditto with a priority move, and then we knock out their Mamoswine with Flash Cannon with Dialga. So that leaves us at a 2-1 with Incineroar and Dialga into Suicune, which is not as good as it seems because our damage output into Suicune is not very good, and they don't have a whole lot of damage into us, but they do have recovery in the form of leftovers and in the form of grassy terrain. So So what we do here is I go ahead and Parting Shot into the Suicune with Incineroar just to minimize its damage output again. It's already at -1, so this will get it at -2, where it'll be doing half the damage it normally would. And we go ahead and Earth Power with Dialga into Suicune. The reason we're Earth Powering is we're trying to get special defense drops on it, and it resists Flash Cannon, so Earth Power is the next best option. So at this point, we've got to a war of attrition, and it's basically just, can we do enough damage to offset Suicune's recovery, and can Suicune get enough damage to knock out the Incineroar? So what we do here is we Darkest Lariat into Suicune, and we Earth Power as well. So they Scald into us, which, because of the double Parting Shot, it's not doing a whole lot of damage, so it's looking pretty good. It's just a matter of if we can, how much damage Darkest Lariat does. So we do get lucky there, and we get a critical hit with Earth Power, which just goes to show how good Suicune's special defense is, because even with that critical hit, it doesn't do a whole lot of damage, and Parting Shot does about the same amount. So with that, we're actually at a pretty good spot in damage-wise, where we do have the damage we need. That's pretty much determined that if Incineroar can stick around, if we can avoid critical hits, then we do have the damage we need to take Suicune out. So we Earth Power again. We don't get the special defense drop again, but we do survive with Incineroar for another turn, and we get another Darkest Lariat off, which does big damage, and now they are in damage range of a Darkest Lariat. So one more time, we Darkest Lariat with Incineroar, and we Earth Power with Suicune. So they Scald again, and they do not get the crit. So they do not get to knock out Incineroar. We do get the Earth Power off, which does about a third of what they have left. I think it's about a 3-hit KO. But Incineroar comes in with the Darkest Lariat, gets the KO, and that is the final knockout of the game, and we get the win here. So, good game to Vigalta, I'm not really sure. But good game. So we'll hop into the team breakdown. Alright, so we'll go ahead and look at the team real quick before I sign off. So, the team is built around Dialga. This Dialga is max HP with 204 special defense EVs and 52 special attack EVs. It's a modest nature with Draco Meteor, Flash Cannon, Earth Power, and Power Gem with Assault Vest. So the Assault Vest is just to make this thing basically unkillable on the special side. Draco Meteor synergizes really well with Crobat being able to haze off the drops. And it's also really good for just big chunk damage if it's at the end of the game and there's something you need to get off the field. Draco Meteor is amazing on Dialga. Flash Cannon is its other stab. It's really good against fairies, obviously, and then rock types. Earth Power is just phenomenal in the current metagame. It destroys Stack Attacka, as you could see in game, I think it was 3, whichever one the Xerneas game was. And then Power Gem is mostly for fire types. Volcarona is the main one, but also Ho-Oh, which is pretty rare these days. But it's mostly to take care of those two, where they're 4 times weak to it. Then we have Landorus with a Life Orb, Sheer Force ability, max speed, max special attack with a Timid nature, with Protect, Earth Power, Sludge Bomb, and Rock Slide. So Earth Power and Sludge Bomb are givens. I think every Landorus is running those because they're its best moves. And I chose Rock Slide as my 4th because it helps get rid of the Volcarona, and it goes around Rage Powder while still being a 1-hit against most Volcaronas. So it's a fairly standard Landorus. I don't think there's really anything special about this one, but it's a really good Pokemon that synergizes really well with Dialga. And it's a very good answer into Regieleki, as we saw, which Crobat can struggle against. Third is Crobat with a Focus Sash, Inner Focus. It is a shiny. Dialga and Incineroar are as well, so that's why I nicknamed this team Team Shiny, because this is the most shinies I've ever had on one team. So Crobat has Dual Wing Beat, Tailwind, Haze, and Hypnosis. So Dual Wing Beat is just a pretty good stab move that goes around Focus Sash, especially on Pokemon like Me and Chow. Tailwind is obvious. It's a great support move. Haze is to drop the Draco Meteor drops, and then it also offsets Snarls and Intimidates. But you have to be careful with it because you can get rid of your own Intimidate drops on the opponent from Incineroar, but it's also incredible against Xerneas and Zacian in particular. With Haze, you can remove the Intrepid Sword boost from Zacian and then bring Incineroar the next turn to basically, instead of just dropping it down to neutral with Incineroar, you will drop it down to -1. And then against Xerneas, if you set up the Tailwind, Crobat outspeeds Xerneas and can get rid of the Geomancy boost. It can also live a +2 Moonblast because it resists Fairy, so that's important to know as well. Fourth is Ditto with a Choice Scarf and the Imposter ability with Transform. This is a Hardy nature. I forgot to change its nature when I was running the games, and I didn't really want to change it just for the Pokepaste and for the rental code. I don't think it really matters because of Imposter, but if you're ever in a situation where you're down to one opponent and Ditto's in the back for some reason, if it's not in the right spot, it won't transform. That's the only really time that speed comes into play, but this Ditto is max HP, max speed, so I don't think it really matters, but let me know if you want me to make that change and then repost the rental code. The fifth Pokemon is Skuntank with a Figgy Berry and Stench as the ability with max HP. It's actually got this almost the same spread as Dialga. Max HP, 204 special defense, and 52 attack with a Careful Nature and Night Slash, Poison Jab, Feint, and Haze. So Skuntank is actually the main Calyrex Shadow counter on this team. So with the Dark type and with its special defense EVs, it takes almost no damage from Astral Barrage, and then it one-hit KOs with Night Slash in return. And then it also is pretty good into Xerneas because it's not weak, unlike most Dark types, it's not weak to Fairy, and Poison Jab does a pretty good chunk to Xerneas as well. Feint and Haze, again, are just really good support moves. Haze pairs really well with Dialga if you don't think that Crobat is the right support Pokemon for Haze. Skuntank also has it, and then Feint gets rid of some of the guessing games with Protect. And the last one is the most standard Pokemon I have on here, which is Incineroar with Safety Goggles, Intimidate, with Flare Blitz, Darkest Lariat, Fake Out, and Parting Shot. There's not a whole lot to say other than this one's shiny. I wasn't really hunting for a shiny, I was just trying to breed an Incineroar, and on my 8th egg I got the shiny, so I figured, why not? I got it up to level 100 and I hyper trained it, so it's the most standard Pokemon, but it really ties the team together, so I couldn't really do this team without Incineroar. As much as I dislike it, it's a really, really good Pokemon. So that's the team. I hope you like it. One important news update is that you can only share 5 teams, and this is my 5th team in Series 10. So after this, I will be dropping the Ho-Oh rental code. So if you do want to try the Ho-Oh team, you can check the video out here. And if you want to try the team, go ahead and rent it now because next week it will not be available. So we'll go ahead and get to my outro, and thank you for watching. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the team. I know it's a weird team, to say the least. This is a team I've actually had for a really long time. It's kind of just a really fun team to play with. If I'm getting tilted with another team I've built, this is usually the one I hop to just to make the game fun again. I really, really love the Crobat Dialga synergy. It's a really, really cool strategy. So I hope you check it out. I hope you enjoy it. Again, if you want to try my Ho-Oh team, go ahead and rent it now. But next week, I'm going to be doing either Rayquaza or Xerneas. I've got those 2 teams built now. I'm leaning towards Rayquaza, but I may do the Xerneas team. I'm not totally sure. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Definitely check out the rental. If you like the video, go ahead and leave it a like. Consider subscribing. I'm going to be posting Series 10 teams until Series 10 ends. I'm hoping I can get through as many restricted as I can, trying to use as many underused ones as I can, or making really off-the-wall teams for the meta picks. So if you like either of those, if you like seeing underused Pokemon, definitely check me out. That's kind of the reason I play Pokemon. I don't really do it for tournaments or anything. I kind of just like to have fun with my favorites. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and like and subscribe. We are in the works of starting up Season 2 of the QBA. So if you're interested in that, that'll be coming soon. We're still working out what the format will be. So I'll let you know any updates as that comes out. But again, thank you for watching. So I'll go ahead and sign off now.